Welcome to The Culture. We rest at the pulse of the community, providing all things news, music, fashion, events, and everything that we talk about in between. It's a lifestyle. We are The Culture. Good day, and thank you for joining us on another edition of The Culture. I am your host, Jessica Garrett Modkins, and joining us today, we have Commissioner Dennis C. Moss. Welcome to the show, Commissioner.
Thank you, Jessica, and thank you to your audience.
It is a pleasure for you to be here today, coming in on the heels of a unanimous vote. Can you tell us about all of the great things that happened last week in the commission meeting and how you were able to secure this wonderful deal with retail giant Amazon?
Thank you so much. And, I'm very proud of the fact that we were able to make that happen. And I'm very proud of the fact that it was done in the Naranja community. Everybody talks about homestead. That's Naranja. But the bottom line is that I've been working for some time in that area. As you know, we acquired a number of acres of land after Homestead Air Force Base was threatened to be closed. And we had to fight, after Hurricane Andrew to keep the base open. And what they did was they granted us a number of acres in the area that we could use for economic development. And so I've been trying to make sure that the right kinds of businesses locate in that area. And we're in the process now. We're creating a logistics hub in that area. FedEx was built a couple of years ago. Now we've got Amazon coming in. Last week, as you stated, the Board of County Commission approved, legislation that I brought in order to allow Amazon to purchase the property. And they're going to build at least 1 million square feet of facility at that particular location. It'll be the largest distribution facility, of its kind that they have built, here in Miami-Dade County. So we're very proud of that. They're going to be bringing 325 jobs to the area. They're going to take property that previously was not on the county tax roll and put it back on the tax roll. And it's going to be a good thing about revitalizing, the area. In addition to that, in the area, of course, we have the mill that's going to be producing the steel mill. It's going to be producing steel in the area, and we are working with the base right now to look at creating a FBO, a fixed base operation facility, county facility on the location as well. And there are other people who come and talk to us about potentially locating, into the area. And we want it to be a park of commerce as opposed to an industrial warehouse area. And so I've insisted upon that. And again, it's going to create a lot of jobs in the area and also, be a real economic boom, for the community, and not just for South Dade, but for all of Miami-Dade County.
And then you referenced those jobs. I understand that the starting salary would be somewhere around $32,000.
Yeah, $32,000, a year, and it all depends on, what area. But again, as a minimum, we want to make sure that they're at least paying $15 an hour, for those jobs. And that's a big issue for all of us, in the county and around the state who want to see that workers, receive an adequate pay so they can take care of their families.
And then there's also a set aside for affordable housing trust. How does that work?
Well, what happened is that my colleague on the Board of County Commissioner, Commissioner Barbara Jordan, sponsored legislation that simply said that if we're selling county land, that a certain percentage of the proceeds from those sales would go to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund so that we could build additional affordable housing throughout Miami-Dade County. And so as a result of that sale, which was like a $22 million sale coming to the county, about 5.5 million of that will go to the trust fund, and the other amount will basically go to what we call the Homestead Reserve-based trust fund to again promote additional economic development, in the area. I also like to say that in my district, what we're doing is, or what I have done is, I have asked that all of my public housing developments in the district, be included in the program that will basically allow those developments to be rehabbed in Pine Island is a public housing development that's right there on Southwest 268th Street and 127th Avenue, right by where Amazon is going to be built. And that's going to be in the RAD program. That's what it's called. And what will happen is that developers will come in and they will develop the same number of public housing units on the site, but also be able to develop, additional units on the site that will be for folks who need workforce housing and some even, maybe market rate, that sort of a thing. And again, it will basically change that area and create, with the jobs being created there, with Amazon and FedEx and the other, businesses that are coming to the area, it will be a really good mix for the community and really turn the entire area around. So we're very, very excited, about that as well.
That's great. And then we can move a little further north of this development and go up to Richmond Heights. I saw right off of Lincoln Boulevard, the Larcenia Bullard Plaza. You all broke ground on that last year, and that's coming quite along. I had a question from one of our viewers who was curious about what actually will be inside of that facility. If you could tell us again.
Thank you, and I'm very excited about that facility as well. When I first came to office, one of the things as part of the MOS plan, one of the things that I made a commitment to the community about was the fact that we were going to take that old shopping center that used to be there and was basically the site of a lot of negative things happening in the community, that we were going to acquire that site, we're going to knock it down, and we're going to put something special in its place. And if you go by there now, the building is up. Development is moving along quite nicely. What's going to happen in that facility is we're going to have, as a part of it, what I call a Black History Center. And we're going to be utilizing technology to basically help tell the story of Black South Dade, of all the communities throughout South Dade. So that'll be downstairs when you first enter into the rotunda, type facility. Above it, we're going to have a meeting space for the community and also a space where you could have art exhibitions and those kinds of things going on. On the lower floor, as you move toward Bethel, Bethel Church, you're going to have at the end, you're going to have a takeout restaurant in that location. And you're going to have about 4 or 5 spots in between for startup businesses. And we want to encourage startup businesses to, come and apply and potentially get a space, there. And again, we're going to charge rents that are under market so that we can help those businesses get in, get their feet wet, and thrive. Above it, we're going to have the same thing, but those are going to be offices, for nonprofits and, those kind of things, lawyers, doctors, those kinds of things. And also you're going to have a business incubator where we're going to have a number of different, cubicles in that area where businesses can come in at, minimal cost, that sort of a thing is set up. And we're going to have, an opportunity for them to be able to utilize, services, answering services, copying services, those kinds of things. And we also plan to have some people in there who are going to be able to help lead and guide and train those business people, help them wherever they can. From an incubator standpoint, we want to basically nurture, those businesses, and hopefully then they can move out into other spaces and we bring additional people in. So
that's great. That is great, Commissioner Moss. Is there any procedure going on now for businesses or any other type of startup business that may be interested in getting on a waiting list or filling out an application? Can they do that now, or do they have to wait a little bit longer?
Well, I would encourage them to do that now. I would encourage them to contact my office and, so that once we begin to move the process forward, and contact the Richmond Heights Community Development Corporation. The one thing that I did also was I made sure that some entity in the community would be the managing arm of the facility. The Richmond Heights Community Development Corporation that owns the shopping center up on 152 in Olivia Edwards Boulevard, 112th Avenue, are the ones who are going to manage the facility in the community. So that way we have stakeholders in the community who are in control of, the facility. And they would be another group that I would suggest you contact in reference to your interest in, having a space, participating, whatnot, in that facility. It's going to be a great facility. And then down the street, we just reached agreement, to basically, with what's called the Miami Wilds company, and they're going to basically, we've agreed to allow them to build a water theme park at Zoo Miami, along with retail and a hotel at that location, again, in the district, and something that I've been working on for many, many years now, but we've reached an agreement. That'll be going to the Board of Commission, later on this month for approval. Again, another 300 some odd jobs, making sure that people are getting paid at least $15 an hour, and another great addition, to what's happening in the district.
Yeah, you cut me off because I was going to ask, let's head a little further west and talk about the things that you're doing there. So that's great. We're looking at additional jobs, retail, a hotel, as well as a water theme park. And South Dade just really deserves all these wonderful things that you're doing to assist us with our economic development and really just being a stakeholder, a true stakeholder here in Miami-Dade County. Those are great things. And I am appreciative of the fact that you have been our commissioner since the 90s, and you are going out with a huge legacy, a huge footprint for someone to have to fill. I was going to ask you what was next, which of course is common, but then you went and announced that you are going to be looking at this school district well, not as a, but you are a candidate. Tell us more about that, your decision to run.
Again, I've been providing public service, been in public service, and it's not politics. I view it as public service now for over 27 years. And, it's just been a blessing that, God has put me in a position to try and help the community as much as I can. And I wanted to continue that public service. And so when Dr. Feldman decided that he was not going to run for re-election, I took a look at the seat. However, a family friend, Pastor Gloria Williams, she entered the race. And so at that point, I put it on pause. Later on, she decided to leave the race. And so I started to take another look at the district again, because many of the neighborhoods that are in the school board district are also neighborhoods that are in my county commission district. And, people, and then COVID came along, with all of those kinds of pressures, and the social justice issues came along. And I just feel that I can provide the leadership that is needed during this time to get through those difficult situations. The kind of leadership and experience that I've gained from, again, having served for over 27 years on the Board of County Commissioners, served a term as the chairman of the board, the kind of experience and leadership that I've gained for having led the effort after Hurricane Andrew. I talked about that earlier, to rebuild South Dade. And many of the things that we talked about, those were things that were created as a part of the Moss plan after Hurricane Andrew. And some of them are just coming to reality, today, because that's the way plans basically operate. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And you have to be able to hang in there and stay with it in order to make sure that these things come to fruition. The kind of experience and leadership that I've gained from, being working for a nonprofit for over 40 years, and 36 of those years as its executive director. And people don't really know much about that side. They know the elected official side. But back in 1986, as the executive director of the Richmond Pride Optimist Club, I realized that students from challenged neighborhoods, particularly African Americans, were being disproportionately expelled from the Dade County public school system. and were then out in the streets causing havoc, getting themselves into further trouble, and being, really fertile uh, as it relates to going from the school to prison pipeline. And so what I wanted to do was to make a difference then. And what I did was I created an alternative school program for those students. And that program still exists, today. Again, trying to stop them from becoming victims of the school, to prison pipeline. Then in 2002, I gained other experience. I created a community suspension program in the community because I realized that, again, a disproportionate number of students from challenged neighborhoods, primarily African Americans, who are being suspended from the schools. And what we would do is we created a situation where they would come to our facility. We would get their work from the various schools, or we'd have standardized work available for them so that they would not fall behind academically during their suspension. And if they did well, let's say, for example, they had a 10-day suspension. If they did well, after 5 days, we go back to the school and ask the school to take them back in early so they would not lose, as many days as they would ordinarily lose. Well, again, in 2015, the school district decided to adopt that, as, their, what they call the student success centers, as their way of trying to address, the suspension programs. We were the forerunners of that. Again, we started that back in 2002. So because of all of those experiences, I believe that I'm well positioned to hit the ground running on day one and to really make a difference, for the residents of South Dade. And I've developed a covenant, which is a promise that I'm making to the community to codify, those commitments that I have, to making things better, in the district.
Yes, and I know that your ear is to the street, and you know what people like myself, we're parents, some of the issues and concerns are for us. So what are those promises and covenant that you are that you are putting on your platform?
Okay. Well, I've got at least 5. I got more than that, but let's start with the first 5. Number one, I want to ensure that our students are safe. And I know that now we're in this COVID era, and so we're focused in on COVID. But I want to remind everybody that it wasn't too long ago that we had the incident, the horrendous incident at Marjory Stoneman Douglas. And so safety of our students is number one and paramount, with me. And I want to do everything that I can as a school board member to make sure that our students are safe. Of course, I want to protect our students and staff from the COVID-19 pandemic that we're facing. And I'm not going to, as a school board member, I will not allow myself to be bullied, nor pressured into sending students back to school if this COVID-19 pandemic, says that it is a dangerous situation, and we have to operate, that way. Number 3, I want to make sure that virtual learning, which is what we're going to be in one form or the other, for a while now, that virtual learning works for all students, that we ensure that they have the adequate number of devices, computers to access their work. Make sure if you got 4 or 5 children in the family, you can't send one computer home, for those 4 or 5 children. And we have to also make sure that they have access to the internet, so that they can plug in and that they have access to getting instructions. Because even for some of us who are a little bit more savvy, basically being able to maneuver the various platforms that are there in terms of, what they would have to be able to plug into in order to get their work and learning, it's not easy. And so we need to make sure that they have, the kind of support systems that will basically ensure, that virtual learning works for everybody and not just for some of the students. Also, number 4, I want to preserve schools in challenged neighborhoods. Now, what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is that what I am beginning to see is that you have newer schools locating in areas, and they are starting to siphon students off from our traditional public schools in our challenged neighborhoods. And that causes me some alarm and some concern, because I can see a time that could very well happen whereby the discussion starts to be, well, we don't have enough students at this school in this challenged neighborhood. So we need to look at repurposing, which has happened with a large number of schools in challenged neighborhoods, primarily African-American neighborhoods. Or we're going to have to basically, or it'll be under threat of closure. And we've had those discussions in the community, and I can see those discussions accelerating. Again, because you've got charter schools, you've got, private schools, you've got church schools, you've got all of these schools that are basically, there and that are being built. And again, they are basically siphoning off students from, our challenged neighborhood schools. And I want to make sure that they're preserved. Those schools are very important to those communities. They represent, a certain amount of status and activity and pride, and economic development. We can't afford to have just fallow, facilities in these neighborhoods. We've got to make sure that these schools survive. And finally, I want to make sure that students are provided with life skills. And what do I mean when I say life skills? I'm talking about employment skills, how to fill out job applications, how to go on job interviews, those kinds of things. Entrepreneur skills. I want our young people to be exposed to the fact that you can own your own business. And what happens in particularly challenged neighborhoods, where you don't have a huge entrepreneur class, then those youngsters don't have the kind of exposure that children from other neighborhoods have. And so I think it would be important to make sure that all children have an opportunity to understand what the world of business ownership is, what the world of entrepreneurship is, so that it doesn't continue to be something foreign that they don't think that they can aspire to because they can. I want to make sure that all students come out of high school with coding skills. And I'm not talking about just being able to, be able to do Word, I'm talking about actual coding skills, actually being able to create algorithms and those kinds of things that basically provides you, with a skill and opportunity out here in the world, because that's where everything is going. We're going to be able to put information into the computer, and the computer is going to be able to write a program for us. So I want to make sure that our children are prepared, in that way. And I also want to make sure that our children are also given more opportunities to try and improve themselves from a trade standpoint. Everybody's not college material, okay? Everybody's not going to college. I would love for everybody to go to college, but everybody is not going to go to college. And so we need to make sure that they have exposure to trade skills that, again, will put them in a position where they can come out and become productive members of our society, take care of themselves and their families, and continue to do good in this community. So that's my covenant, with the community, with the students, parents, the community. Those are my promises that I will work for on behalf of this community, in addition to all the other issues that may come up. But again, I believe that because of my experience in my previous leadership, that I am in a position, to really help District 9 to continue to move forward. And that's the reason why I decided to run.
Thank you for that. It is a very precarious situation right now for parents and for students. And we're thankful for people like you who are taking this very seriously, because we've never seen times like this, and we need strong leadership. We've run out of time, but I wanted you to at least have a platform to be able to leave the viewers with any closing thoughts.
Well, first of all, Jessica, thank you. And I appreciate, the kinds of things that you and your company are involved in. I'm proud of the fact that, you are an entrepreneur, you're a businesswoman, role model, and we need to have more individuals like yourself, out there. And, our young people need to understand that, you can be the next Jessica, you can be the next Commissioner Moss. And so, again, I'm in it because I believe that I can make a difference, in the community. I believe that I can link maybe neighborhoods that may not have been, a part of or feel a part of the mainstream, in the past. And I want to basically be their voice. And again, I want to be very clear. I'm not going to be bullied by anybody. I'm not going to bow to pressure to send our children into dangerous situations. I will never do that. I don't care what the situation is. And so, again, I know how to deal with these things. And with that, I humbly ask for the community support. And on August 18th, please vote for Dennis C. Moss for School Board District 9. And thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Commissioner Moss. We really appreciate you stopping by the culture and informing all of our viewers. And I would like to encourage all of our viewers to know some very important dates. This primary election is, again, like Commissioner Moss said, on August the 18th. Early voting starts August the 3rd through the 16th, and you can also vote by mail. We have a story that ran, I believe it was last week, on how to vote by mail if you were interested in getting an early ballot. We just encourage everyone to let your voice be heard. Thank you again, Commissioner Moss, and thank you everyone for tuning in to another edition of The Culture. We look forward to seeing you next time.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
The Culture is produced and owned by Hip Rock Star Media and cannot be reproduced or broadcast without written consent by Jessica Garrett Modkins. All rights reserved 2020.